Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And you see on with my guy, South Carolina's finest, Will Kramer. What up, Will?
What's going on, man? This is a big day.
Yes.
Finally get an opportunity to recap the draft. This is big.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We talked after the first pick. I mean, you, Ab, and Alex all knew where we were going, and I still held out hope that we were getting my guy. For those of you that don't know, Drake May. But we went Jayden Daniels, and honestly, now that I've had a week and I've seen all the videos, there was the one where you saw Jayden Daniels in like the locker room, or he's in the film room, and you have Doug Williams talking to him. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. This guy is it. So, but beyond that, though, how did you feel about the rest of it? I mean, we missed on a couple. We got a couple that we liked. What did you think?
You know, I'll start off by saying that, well, two things. They made it very clear that they were not going to fix every single hole that we had this offseason. Mm-hmm. That this was going to be a building process. And so, yeah, there's a couple positions out there that we're like, they didn't go after that. Or there's one position in particular where the fans are freaking out right now that we did not improve. But so one thing is preaching patience. But the second thing is I'm also really going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. We haven't had this type of scouting knowledge in many years. And so yes, there were certain times throughout the draft where we picked somebody or chose not to pick somebody that I would have done differently on.
Right.
But what I noticed was they were going after best player available to improve the team.
Yep.
And if you look at all the mocks that we did, that our friends did, that people put on social media, everybody went quarterback, left tackle. Yep. Now I can go have some fun. And they said, we're going to add good players no matter what.
Yes.
We don't have to fix and find a need and then add good players. We're going to add good players when we deem fit. So that I thought was a kind of interesting strategy looking at what they did. So I'm going to let you share, some of what you saw, and then I've got a couple other things about it.
Yeah, no, honestly, and let's bring this. Let's bring it up. I actually just put it in. Here we go. Here is that draft class with obviously getting Jayden Daniels, Jer'Zhan Newton, who a lot of people were definitely interested in. Mike Sainristil in the second round. And this is after we traded back from the 40th pick to, I believe, Philly, and traded back and got those two picks and another 100 something deeper in the draft. But getting Mike Sainristil, then getting a guy that you and I talked about, Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. Love that pick. And then kind of get it finally in the late third. I mean, not late, but I mean in the third round, getting the tackle, and then Luke McCaffrey, Jordan McGee, the safety, and then also John Baptiste down towards the end. Honestly, for me, I mean, after the first pick, I was really kind of intrigued by what we were going to do next. I was looking at the second. We had all talked, are we going to jump back in the first round? Once we kind of got the feeling we were not going to do that, and a lot of the O tackles were taken, I was going right to my playbook. All right, quarterback, O tackle, cornerback. Let's go straight to Cooper. Let's go straight to Kool-Aid McKinstry. Both of these guys are available. And then we went Newton, and it was like, okay, you know what I mean? And then going down the line, and you trade that next one back, and then now all of a sudden Cooper gets picked after that. But then they kind of said, hey, look, we know you might not have got who you wanted early, but check this out. getting Ben Sinnott, getting the linebacker for Temple. Let me bring it up one more time real quick. Luke McCaffrey with the 100th pick. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've told you Mike Sainristil. It's kind of like these guys like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We know, and you just sat back like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm good. I'm absolutely good. So, honestly, I'm super ecstatic about the whole draft and how things went. But I'm just so excited to see, like, these are some of the guys we talked about. These are some of the guys that we kind of like the feeling you had last year with Emmanuel Forbes. Is like, this is kind of the direction we're going. But this year, it's kind of, I like this. I like this. So what about you, man?
Yeah, well, shout out to you. You're the one who shared and told us about Sainristil, because I was off that guy's radar. I was not paying attention based on his size. And you were like, don't worry about size. Look at how he plays. Look at his smarts. And that's exactly what they talked about. I saw there was an overall theme. There are two themes about the players we drafted, which hopefully will help people like feel better if they didn't get your guy.
Right.
One was a lot of team captains.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about character players, when you talk about locker room presence, they went after guys who were captains, leaders on the field. And they've talked about that before, how important that would be. Every team talks about that. But the second one was they changed the little moniker to say raise hail. Mm-hmm. And instead of, take command. And they talked about having violent football players that play tough, play strong. That's what they went after. When your second pick is a defensive tackle, you're going after that. When you're picking a tight end who's a combination of Kyle Juszczyk and George Kittle and not just some pass catching receiver, you're going after physical football players who are going to change the culture and play of your franchise. And that's what they were resetting, or as Dan Quinn called it, recalibrating. Mm-hmm. So that part made me say, like you, like at the end, go, all right, because there's certainly, I didn't love the idea of giving Philly the chance to get Cooper DeJean. I thought that would be fun. And I maybe had some choice words after that happened, wondering, what they were doing. But then when it all came to fruition after the third round, it was like, I like this haul. Yeah. There's players out there that I think can make an impact early on in the season. And that part's exciting.
Mm-hmm. I look at that list and honestly, I was talking to Alex today, and he was saying, I could see like 4 potential starters out there. Obviously, you got Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. Let's bring it up. Oh, right over here. Newton could get in there. Obviously, that place is set. Mike Sainristil. I look at our cornerbacks, and I'm like, I think he could challenge any one of them. I think he can definitely be one of those first name guys. You talked about Ben Sinnott. I don't know much about Coleman, but I have heard a lot of good things about Luke McCaffrey.
Yeah.
The ex-quarterback, obviously that pedigree. Mm-hmm. We'll get into these guys a little bit later, but I mean, there's a bunch of guys on this that we're just like, okay, yes, we picked guys that could come in day one. You talked about them all being captains. I love that, but they're also just ready to go. And that I am just applauding Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, all the things that they have done going into this. But before we get into these guys, let's ask this, because obviously we've talked about it. There's a couple guys they didn't get a couple guys we thought. Who did we miss out on? Who are some people that you thought we missed out
on? I think there was concern about left tackle. That seems pretty obvious to say today, looking at the roster, going, Cornelius Lucas until maybe Brandon Coleman is ready. And along with there's chatter out there that Coleman would be better as a guard, and we're obviously concerned about that. Now, they have said that they view Coleman as a left tackle. But I think what I was hearing was we were going after Tyler Guyton and Jordan Morgan. They both got picked in the first round. And so everybody else was going to be a project. And so I think left tackle is the biggest, what are we going to do? Because I don't love Cornelius Lucas. But to me, that was kind of it. I was kind of surprised we didn't get another running back. I guess I'd say that. But, so that those two positions, I was like, we did not address that. All right.
Yeah. I didn't. I didn't. That offensive tackle thing, especially when we knew there were so many offensive tackles going in, was like, okay, all right, we didn't get this good. All right. And then Cooper DeJean, I've talked to you about that. Like, I just thought, having a guy like this or Kool-Aid McKinstry that could then learn under Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., we saw what they did in Dallas. I was like, that's a no-brainer. Like, let's go with that. And the Newton thing, I be honest with you, I love that. But it was just baffling because I was looking in another direction.
Yes.
I think this next guy, you know him very well. I talked about him in the first game of the year. Gets picked up surprisingly early for me, but stays at home in Carolina. Xavier Legette, your guy. I guess we could say missed out. We wouldn't have traded up for him, but with the guys that with us now in hindsight, knowing we weren't going to go corner, if he would have been there and knowing how people valued him, I would have definitely taken a shot on getting an Xavier Legette. Big body guy, you know him firsthand. And I love how he raised up. So that, for me, wide receiver, I thought there was a lot of wide receivers around the range of where we were. And I thought, okay, if we're not going corner, let's go to this side. Let's give Jayden Daniels some weapons. And we didn't touch on that. Loved, obviously, the picks that we did at tight end and all that. But there was also, I guess, a couple. I thought we might look at safety more. Like, I know we got Dominique Hampton later in the draft, and he's been solid at Washington and really good. I've heard a lot of good things as far as him being a hard hitter and kind of really being able to, pad on ball, like really get after these guys. But I just maybe we could have jumped up a little earlier to get that. Maybe we could have got one of these bigger name guys like a Javon Broussard who went to the Packers at 58. You know what I mean? Maybe we could have taken one of those picks and got him. I don't know. But, definitely a couple of guys I was kind of like, but I'm nitpicking right now. Because honestly, everything up to, the 100th pick and those next two picks after, I was fairly good with. So it's not a problem.
I hear you.
So, but let's get into these picks and start off. For those of you that might have watched us on Thursday night, myself, Will Kramer, Alex Stevens, and Ablo were all on here talking about this pick. There is one other guy that we missed out on. My guy, Drake May, went to the New England Patriots. I wish him well. But in hindsight, Jayden Daniels, we haven't seen him play yet, but Jayden Daniels, the more electric guy, the higher upside. And all I want to do is say, this is our second chance with RG3, because I just feel like there's such a connection between him and RG3. This is 12 years later. What do you think?
I think here's what we should all feel good about is they finally announced what they were thinking, not just the pick, but they shared what they were thinking. In the press conference afterwards, late at night, after midnight on Thursday, they said, Jayden was our guy pretty early, and we allowed the process to play out, but it never really changed. And I think that's important for everyone to see, like, while they kept it quiet and didn't announce until the day before the draft that they had figured out who they're going to, they've had their sights on him the whole time, And then I think it still comes back to what we talked about Thursday night, which is Dan Quinn's a defensive coach. And what do defensive coaches stay up at night with? Mobile quarterbacks. Ones that are difficult to game plan. And so I think there was this natural inclination to say, like, that's who I'm scared of. That would be, plus with the Cliff Kingsbury experience with Kyler Murray, there's just a lot of pieces there that makes sense for this pick. So I think that should make us feel better about their process, to say they knew what they were doing, they identified it early, they gave everyone a chance to rise above him, and ultimately they said, nope, this is our guy.
Mm-hmm. And I like that, man. They went with who they wanted, and here we are. So Jaden Daniels in-house. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's going to be a while till training camp and all this type of thing, but obviously a lot of Commanders fans are excited. This is a new day. I love this. Let's move on to that second pick. First of all, we did not trade back in. We had talked about that. Now in the first round, I think it was 8 offensive tackles were taken.
Yeah.
So if we were going to go in that direction, obviously, like you said, the rest, the next couple guys were projects. Okay, we decided we're going to stay here. Talk to me about this pick. I love Jer'Zhan Newton, first and foremost. I've watched him at Illinois. The only thing that was really good on them was their defense, and he was a game wrecker. I mean, I think it was week 2 or week 3, he single-handedly took over the game, multiple sacks, multiple tackles for losses, and a fumble recovery and whatnot. So I knew this guy could play, but I guess I went with my picture in my head of which direction we're going to go. Talk to me about this, because he was the best guy available at the time.
Yeah, this would be my only of the night reaction that we had, because it was like a D tackle already. Yeah. And so I kind of listened to what Adam Peters said, whereas he's like, in San Francisco, we never passed up the opportunity to add quality defensive linemen. And he's like, we had a first-round grade. When they called him, they said, we can't believe you're still available, And he was like, I can't believe I am either. So they're like, we're jumping on this. And so that goes into the best player available. And they said, in this right now, we can add a quality player versus what is our overall bigger need of offensive tackle. And, you've got to hope that will produce, for us. It does lead down the line of what happens with Jonathan Allen next season. His guaranteed money's off, but also but maybe that's way too premature. What about we just saying we don't know what type of defense they want to run, and therefore this guy is going to provide another wrecking ball in the middle. I heard Al Galdi, I think, talked about, it was Al Galdi, or maybe it was JP Finley, and basically they said that Allen and Payne had too many snaps in 2023, and that the next highest snap was John Ridgeway at only maybe 30% of the season getting snaps. Right. And so it actually became a bigger need to keep these guys fresh, and that's what this guy's, coming in to do. And so the ability to rotate players, plus who knows what type of line they're going to be doing if they go to a 5-2, or if they, whatever they do, we don't know what the defense is going to look like. So I think this guy is going to bring some versatility. And I love hearing that you've known about him and known he's a wrecking ball.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I'm definitely excited about that. And that was the first thing I thought after I kind of got over the shock of like, what are we doing? Then it was kind of like, okay, maybe this is our second chance on Fadarius Mathis. Or maybe they say, hey, we have him, Jer'Zhan Newton, and Fadarius Mathis in here as 2 young guys who are kind of fresh now. Let's hope Big Phil is fresh. And you're right. I know the injury history. But one of the things that we know Dan Quinn did, we always talked about moved guys around and had different sets. And you get all these random guys getting sacks, and you're like, who the heck is this guy who's dominating us? So I love this, because now you have a package, you put the big guys in, then you take them out, you bring in the young guys, and then you start continually bringing in guys. Let's balance that stuff out. I absolutely love this one. But again, after this one, the 40th pick, we traded with the Eagles, and this is where we got the 50th and the 53rd. We got, and these 2 by far are my 2 favorite picks of this draft. Getting this one, Mike Sainristil. I knew I told you about that. Honestly, for me, Kate hit me up and she was like, "Oh, this is my baby. I love it." I said, "I know." but honestly, watching him play and watching how he kind of breaks down, like he'll sit back and observe the cover, what the routes and whatnot, see what's coming to him, and just kind of makes the intelligent play on the ball. You talk about one of the team captains. This guy, some have said he's one of the best players in the draft just because of how well balanced he is on and off the field. So absolutely love this. What are your thoughts? I know we had talked about this before.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you brought him up, because I would have not have reacted as well as I did when they picked him. I was like, okay, and I was flipping between a couple different broadcasts, and that's when it was on the Pat McAfee show. Yeah. It was no, this was on ABC. Nick Saban said, pound for pound, he is the best defensive player in this draft. Yep. That's some pretty doggone high praise from someone who really knows what he's talking about.
Right.
So that's impressive. And then you learn a little bit about how this guy's going to be used. And he's a nickel corner. He's an inside corner. He's going to take on the slot receiver. And he can play around the line of scrimmage as well. And so what that to me means, one thing, you had talked about, hey, we didn't address safety earlier. I think this means Quan Martin's moving further back to play free safety. You're basically saying, hey, this guy's going to come in here and take on our slot receivers on the inside. And just kind of seeing what the tape was showing and hearing from a lot of folks, like you just said, smarts is what they keep talking about this guy. So that's just really exciting to see where they find the place that he can play. Right.
And like you said, everybody has had, just speak glowingly of this guy. They, really top of the line type guy. And it speaks again to the character, the type of guy we're bringing in house. So I love that. Now, this next guy, we talked about him during the combine. I'm going to send this over to you. This guy, you said it, do it all between a Juszczyk and a George Kittle, man. This guy can be one of the bringing back that H-back. Bringing back something like that. What do you think about it, man?
Yeah, I knew we needed to improve on tight end, and we heard the week of the draft that a couple of the reporters had said that they actually view tight end as a priority. And Cliff Kingsbury runs a lot of 12 personnel, and we don't have guys to do 12 personnel right now. We don't have John Bates out there to, on a consistent basis. And so they improved the roster with this guy, and he has the ability, he kind of, without getting people too fired up, he's sort of like a Chris Cooley type. He's not the fastest guy. I was told he's not going to break the tackles the way Chris Cooley could, but he could be that solid player that's going to catch the ball a lot. He can block. He can be a part of your 12 personnel immediately. Like Adam Peters kind of said, he goes, we see a lot of traits between Juszczyk and Kittle that can be good. And I just feel like it was a position that we needed to improve on, and we hit it kind of early. And, there's a lot of praise about this pick. A lot of people are really loving this. So it's got to give you some excitement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, we had talked about that. And like you said, they focused on this position, and they showed us that by one of the first picks they got was Zach Ertz. Signed him on that 1-year deal. Now he's in house to kind of mentor these guys, and now all of a sudden we have 3, 4 tight ends, maybe 5. Is Rodgers still on the?
He is.
Rodgers? Yeah, he's still there. So we now got these guys. So now we got a tight end room that we can kind of let's just mold these guys together, and it starts here, because I honestly think he comes in day one, and he might not be the full time, but he's up there, man. We have to get him on the field early and often, and I'm absolutely loving that.
I think these first 4 picks that we've made are day one on the field contributors, which is exciting.
Oh yeah, we're doing what we've been asking them to do. That's why we like. Hey, and shout out to Tina, man. I was talking to her, and she was telling me, she was like, remember, Sean, you guys got Josh Harris. Who was he the owner of? The 76ers. What's the motto? Trust the process. Yeah. And it's exactly what's happening. And I'm going to keep with that narrative and go with this one. You've talked about it, that said he might be better inside, but they can also see him as a left tackle. His size, I love. Yes. I love my big bodied left tackles and things like that. We've seen he could play, but talk to me, man. I don't know much else about this guy.
Yeah, and neither do I, other than they've come out to say he's our left tackle. I think I don't think anybody has a problem with this pick. Their concern is how long do we need to play Cornelius Lucas until he's ready? That's the concern with the rookie quarterback. And that's valid. I think that makes complete sense. And, you know, I hope that they're right on this, on who they're going, if he's our left tackle of the future, you know, or can he be serviceable at some point in the season? Because that's a big blindside that you're protecting.
Yeah, and this is where it kind of goes back to that question where it's like, all right, this is in the top 100 picks, so you get this guy. So he's not a Joe Schmo, like he's a quality guy, but then still, it's like, you know, instead of Newton, you know, we could have made this move. You know, I understand we wanted to trade back, but we could have gotten somebody else in here. So that's where I'm kind of like, all right, you're really betting on this guy. They said they liked him. So again, I'm trusting that he can turn into what we need him to be.
Well, and this was where during that 50 and 53 pick, or even at when we were 40, I was saying my guy, Roger Rosengarten, was who I was looking for.
Right.
You know, and then there was a guy from BYU that a lot of people thought Kansas City was going after. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. His first name starts with a K. His last name starts with an A. Yeah. But you heard a lot more that essentially the league was believing that if it wasn't a first round tackle, they all were projects. And so there really may not have been a difference, or at least, you know, the commander said, if they're all going to be projects, we don't need to use it at 36. We don't need to do this at 50. If they're there when we're picking in the 60s, this will be our guy, because they're all kind of on that same plane. And that's what they came out and, you know, and said. And so they had identified him, and I think they identified the fact we'll be able to get him later and fill that need that we have, just not as pressing. And so again, the fact that they had a game plan around it makes me feel slightly better.
Right. I am hoping for the best. I'm trying hard to kind of go away from that Braden Daniels feel of last year, where it's like, what are we doing? And that's a lot of the reason why I said us going up there and getting Jer'Zhan Newton was our redo for getting Fedarius Mathis. You know, we're hoping Big Phil gets back on the field, but in reality, we truly do not know. And this pick, the next one, the 100th pick, bringing in good blood into our organization. Luke McCaffrey, the brother of Christian McCaffrey, son of Ed McCaffrey. We got him wide receiver at Rice. And Will, this guy's an ex-quarterback. Mm-hmm. This guy is lean, mean. He's a step above his brother in the combine at the 40-man. I mean, look, a lot of people have not watched him because they were at Rice. But I'm going to tell you something, man. This guy has big playability. I think in college he had 14-yard catch average or something like that. So the guy, I mean, plays out. We'll see if it brings it to the NFL. But, I mean, you got speed. You got nice size. Mm-hmm. You got somebody that can come in here and be that fill-in guy, that slot, that, you know, get those tough third down catches, man. What did you think about it?
Absolutely. You mentioned, hey, we didn't get a chance to get Xavier Legette. We didn't get our big-bodied receiver, and he's not the Keon Coleman type big bodies, you know, out there, but he's 6'2". He's 200 pounds. You know, he comes from a very successful family. You know, and there's just a lot of folks who said this guy gets it. He's going to be something on the next level, that he's going to be able to play, you know, and if he can be a third down converter for us, I'll take it, you know. So I'm pretty excited about this pick. I don't know if of all the wide receivers on the list of potential picks going into Thursday and Friday, he was high on my list. But when we came away with him, I was like, all right, I'm okay betting on that.
Right. Right. And I mean, again, first thing you look at is the name, you know, the pedigree, you know, obviously all that great talent, athletic ability in that family. So it's exciting to see. But going along with everything else that has happened at this point and trusting it, then you're like, okay, it's not just a name. They're going after somebody that they believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I
Mhm.
love this pick. And along that same line, we didn't have a pick in the 4th round,
Yep.
so we went to the 5th, getting Jordan McGree at a linebacker at a Temple. And I've heard this dude's a dog, man. I've heard they were hyped to get this guy, and this guy is a baller, man. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, now you're hitting what I liked about the first picks that we had, the rounds 1, 2, and 3s. These are guys who on week 1 are going to be able to contribute. Maybe not Coleman, but this season. Now you start getting the guys that are going to be special teams, or they're going to be developmental pieces. And I think that's what we're looking for here is, special teams. He played special teams in college. How about that? One of the things that people forget, and I'm guilty of this, sometimes when you draft a linebacker in college who was a starter, he may not be playing teams in college. Then he's in the NFL and he's got to go play special teams, which he hasn't played because he was a star on his team, on his college team. And it's not this, just pick it up, go down there and tackle someone. There's a lot more to special teams. But McGee was part of this. And so I think that's really good. He's a developmental piece. He's an inside linebacker. So if all he is a special teams player, I'm not mad about it. But that, 5th rounds 5 and later, now you're projecting players to make small contributions.
Yeah. So glad he is on there, but we'll kind of see where he fits in. I mentioned this to you. Moving on, I mentioned this to you. Getting also in round 5, needing a safety. Dominique Hampton out of Washington. We're able to pick him up. Like I said before, this guy is one of those guys that when he hits the receiver or we hits the pass catcher, he makes sure that they feel him. Great, hat on ball, like great coverage, look and lean, and take some interesting angles in pursuit. They said that's something that he's gonna have to work on. But honestly, we talked about dog, we talked about tough guy that we're bringing in. This guy fits that mold, and in my opinion, it's a little bit of a steal as far as we got him when we got him. But I think this is going to be good for us to kind of beef up that secondary.
Yeah, I think the idea for him would be, or the projection would be, potentially being Jeremy Chinn's replacement next year. That type of player in the box, type safety, linebacker type, like you said, utilize his ability as a hard hitter. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him and how he makes progress throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then round 7, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, DN out of Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame, so I always shout these guys out. But late round 7, what are we expecting from this guy? Is this more special teams or depth?
Yeah, depth. I don't know anything about this guy. I know he played for Ohio State for 4 seasons or 5 seasons, and then went to Notre Dame for a year. So you mentioned, I was just looking at what his size is, and I didn't see it. You said, what did we miss out on? And I think we didn't address edge the way fans would have thought we would have. And I don't think that this guy's going to be doing it either. But I think what we are, we're adding more pieces to the puzzle, guys who can be rotational depth. And I think the idea between Newton and some of the free agents that we signed, like Dante Fowler, like Dorrance Armstrong, those are going to be our edge setters, and our linebackers like Frankie Louvu. I think he's going to be providing a lot of pass rush, maybe even Jamin Davis. And so those, I think, are going to be our edge guys. This guy, a developmental piece, backup, whatever. A 7th round pick. I'm not really going to get too excited about that. No. He's no JMU Jimmy getting picked in the 7th round. I'll tell you that.
Come on now. Come on. Kept getting contracts. Come on, man. Yo, let's go ahead and move on because we still picked up some guys after the draft, the undrafted free agent signings. I can tell you one, Sam Hartman, my guy. I'm excited about it. But Will, who are some of the names on this list?
Yeah, so Sam Hartman is the biggest name on the list. If you're better hide your wife around one Loudon if Sam Howell's there or Sam Hartman's there with his head and shoulders hair, everything.
Exactly. Flows, man. Exactly. Come on now.
I had to send it to Trish. I was like, this is who they picked up. She goes, oh.
Yeah. We know it, man.
Right.
Northern Virginia's next heartthrob, man.
Right. So obviously he's the biggest name. We actually put some money into a player, a cornerback out of Colorado State. I can't pronounce the guy's name. It's Chig something with an A. It's maybe I'll look it up real quick. But he's got some good size. He's got some good he's got some good height. He's got some good size. He's about 200 pounds. There were a lot of teams that wanted him, so it took us putting him to a contract above the league minimum already. But I caution everybody. I put in our chat with you, me, and Ab about how I'm not going to get too excited over undrafted free agents because I've done this before.
Right.
Last year, I got really excited over Kaz Allen.
Oh,
okay.
He's back. We signed him back.
Yeah, we did. Last year we gave Mason Brooks the same type of contract to be on our team. Mason Brooks never got elevated off the practice squad. Mitchell Tinsley was our training camp. The highlight of training camp, the star of training camp, the unknown star. He had less catches than De'Ami Brown, but he had less than 10 catches all season, I think. So he really wasn't a contributor. And so I've gotten excited about these types of players before, and I'm not doing it this year.
Nope.
It's, so it's that's great. Sam Hartman's the big name. He's probably a developmental piece for the next season to be a backup quarterback for us. And, that's great that they signed this guy, but everybody else we got, they're going to be training camp bodies. If they make the roster, congrats to them. If they make the practice squad, congrats to them. But I'm not sitting here going that guy is going to be our next starting wide receiver. Right. I don't have the feeling.
Right. Speaking of that guy out of Georgia, Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. Yeah. He'll be a camp body. He'll be something nice. I mean, good size and whatnot. And we know what he's done at Georgia, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I agree with you. It really goes quarterback and then the rest. Did get a couple? Got a running back. Austin Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to USC and Stanford. And then also Michael Wiley out of Arizona. So maybe that's where they felt like they wanted to address running back. Obviously, we know how the league has kind of devalued the position. So, I mean,
yeah.
We'll see. But maybe they're straight with who we have in house. I mean, you got Austin Eckler, and then Brian Robinson, and then Rodriguez is no slouch. I mean, he showed out last year. When we were struggling. So we'll see. Look. We want to go here one place. Are there any positions that were not addressed? Do we need to sign a free agent? And I want to start with this with offensive tackle. We did not go here. We did not look for anybody. Now, I'm not sure of, a lot of the big guys are already picked up in free agency. But, like Ron Rivera said, after the draft is when the real free agency starts. But to his point, a lot of these teams, if they get a draft pick, then maybe they don't need some of these guys, and they start cutting people because they want to propel somebody else into that position. Are there going to be guys available? I'm not sure if there's anybody out there that I would really be like, we need to pick up, except for depth.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right by saying left tackle is certainly one that we need to be worried about. One of the names was Mekhi Becton, and he signed with the Eagles already, so that kind of came off the board already, and Commanders fans on social media kind of lost their shit. But there's also DJ Humphreys came from Arizona. He's still available. There's a Donovan Smith out of Kansas City. When I saw the numbers, the contract for Mekhi Becton, I'm like, okay, maybe it is worth going after a one of those guys and bringing them in. And I was worried that they wouldn't want to come in and be available, but for cheap money, maybe they will be available now. So I think that's definitely something they could look at is going left tackle. The other one is corner. I think one of the things I didn't think about it at the time is what did we miss out on? In the fourth round, there were some guys that I was like, oh, man, I wish we had a fourth-round pick. Jeremiah Trotter was available. TJ Tampa hadn't been picked up. So there was a couple players I was like, oh, a fourth-round pick would be nice. But there are corners out there. the guy from Dallas played at South Carolina. Stephon Gilmore is still available. There was a few corners out there if we wanted to address that, if we're worried about Forbes and St. Juste on the outside. So there's, like you said, phase 3 of free agency still available for us to go get some players, and maybe we can still add to the roster a little bit.
Yeah, we never know. But yeah, we definitely, again, going back to the whole thing that we're talking about, trusting the process, because obviously they have something in mind. But yeah, back to those are the places that we did not get, but we'll see what they're doing. We'll see what direction they want to go. Is there anybody else that because we're not gonna, I don't know. I'm interested to seeing what happens from here on out. There's not much outside of this, because obviously now next thing is to kind of sign these guys, get them on the team, and then get us ready for OTAs and all those things coming down the line, which is a couple months away. So,
right. I think we could be on Brandon Ayuk watch. The same weekend that Jaden Daniels got drafted, they appeared at the same place later on that weekend. So they're good friends. I mean, he's still available, or maybe San Francisco's keeping him. I don't know.
It could happen. And that's another thing that I wanted to kind of explore towards the season. The fact that Adam Peters had so much success with helping putting San Francisco together, and he didn't burn those bridges coming over to Washington. So it kind of makes me think, like when I saw the McCaffrey pick, I was like, that's interesting. But I kind of think like is that, hey, McCaffrey, my little brother, get him in that connection, get him in house or something like that. And,
right.
and it makes you kind of think I was telling Tina, these are things that could not have happened 2 years ago. Yeah. These are things that could not have happened last year, because he would have been like, no, stay away from there. But now with things changing, now you bring back, you have Peters in here, and then you also can bring back a guy like a Shanahan, and now people are saying, okay, that's not so toxic over there. Maybe you could go over to Washington and it's shown. Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner, all the different picks that we've got. We are becoming a destination. We're not the Chiefs, but we're becoming a place where people potentially want to go.
People trust who we have in the building now. Yep. They trust the coaches, and they trust the personnel folks. And so, I mean, that's a really nice thing for us to say.
Yes, it is true. It has not always been that way, but
no.
If you've been around, you absolutely know that. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we are so appreciative of you guys being in here on our draft recap. We will definitely be back with you as this off season unfolds. With all the news and notes, maybe even a little Brandon Ayuk watch. We'll see if he comes in the house. Being nice, like we said, we did not address wide receiver, except for McCaffrey, but not a big name, big body guy that we always talk about. So, maybe that's the next step. Who knows? We will definitely see. But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna let you guys go. This has been Washington Offseason Update, the draft recap for my guy, South Carolina's finest, Will Kramer. It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo. Let's talk football, and we will be with you guys next time. Stay tuned for all the good stuff we got going on. And as always, left hand up.
Left hand up.
Gibbs, you got a good chance. Let me tell you something about some good fans. Back in the day, RFK was our palace. If you don't know, you need to ask about us. Think we're gonna lose? Well, I can't believe you doubt us. Had the whole crowd screaming out, "We want Dallas!" Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. We fight for RDC. Who are we?